If you had told me 3 months ago that Clive Rosfield from Final Fantasy XVI would not only be in Tekken, but would end up being one of the most controversial characters we've ever seen, seemingly sparking massive fights in the community before he was even released, I would have looked at you like you were crazy. Clive has easily sparked some of the most controversy we've ever seen in the Tekken community, and again, this was before he even came out. And when he did finally release and we got to play him for ourselves, it unfortunately didn't get better. Not by a long shot. He somehow managed to become even more hated and controversial. Everyone and their mother were either playing him or complaining about him, and it honestly looked like he was going to be taking over the game at that point. Until he suddenly got nerfed to the ground. And keep in mind, all of this happened in less than a month. What is going on here? How has the character had this much of an impact in such an incredibly short time? In this video, I'm going to be covering the rise, the fall, and all of the controversies in between, and figure out why everyone hates Clive so much in Tekken 8. So let's get into it. It's no surprise that the DLC characters have been controversial. I've talked about it plenty on this channel, but Clive's announcement brought this controversy to a whole new level. Revealed at the Game Awards in December of 2024 as Tekken 8's very first guest character, people online were livid for a couple of reasons. The standard, "this isn't real Tekken," people came out right off the bat, of course, saying that anime swordsmen have no place in Tekken, and the game is supposed to be about martial arts, and that Clive is way too flashy and too anime for Tekken. Those people were more or less to be expected, but a lot of people were also mad because of their PTSD from Tekken 7. The Final Fantasy rep in that game, Noctis, was very hated. He was considered one of the most cheap and annoying characters in the game, with his incredible range and various weapon attacks. He was not fun to fight, and people online were immediately calling Clive Noctis 2.0, causing even more panic and annoyance. It definitely didn't help that videos were going around doing side-by-side comparisons, claiming that Clive's attacks were all reused, even though they're both from the same series, and a lot of Final Fantasy attacks are the same between games. It's funny because, in retrospect, the characters honestly couldn't be more different. They really feel nothing alike, but of course, people panicked and were coming to conclusions before the character was even released. Prominent members of the community were dooming, going as far to say that he's gonna kill the game. Again, all before anyone even played him. Okay, so the very vocal, opinionated Tekken fans didn't like him, but surely the Final Fantasy fans must have been happy with this announcement, right? Right? Yeah, no. As it turns out, the Final Fantasy community is about just as divided as the Tekken community is. There were so many fans who really wanted Tifa as the Final Fantasy rep for this game, and these people essentially just had their most wanted character deconfirmed for Tekken 8. And of course, you had tons of Final Fantasy fans who really just didn't want Clive because they hated Final Fantasy XVI. Apparently, Final Fantasy XVI was very controversial among fans. This isn't to say that no one was happy about this reveal. There were probably just as many people celebrating his announcement, celebrating how cool he looked, how amazing and flashy his effects were. I'm sure there were probably tons of casual players who saw this trailer and decided to buy the game because of it. But it's the internet. Complaining is always louder than praise. So at that time, it definitely looked like reception was very negative surrounding Clive. And all of this was before the character even came out. We had no idea what was to come. When Clive first released to Season Pass holders on December 16th, people were initially pretty unsure what to think of him. He had a very unique moveset, and again, despite all the worry, felt nothing like Noctis. There were the usual people on social media screaming, "He's broken! Top 1 in the game is ruined!" minutes after he came out, but that's pretty normal. I feel like that's happened for pretty much every DLC character so far, and they all ended up being pretty mid. People were really uncertain about him for the first few days, with pros and content creators like Mainman initially thinking he was another balanced mid-tier character. And then, it happened. Clive was found to have some pretty ludicrous stuff. The star of the show, of course, was his forward 1+2, Prominence. This was a safe heat engager that had full tracking, essentially infinite range, and oh yeah, it's also a launcher if you heat dash. And it wall splats because why not? The move just did everything. It was easily one of the best moves we've ever seen in Tekken 8, and I'm sure you guys have all heard plenty about it. It was absolutely ridiculous. So overtuned that you could find success with a character pretty much by only using this move. But it wasn't just that one move. He had so much other stuff. Before we get to those moves, did you guys know that 87% of the people who watch my videos aren't actually subscribed to the channel? If you guys want to see more scripted Tekken content like this, please consider subscribing. If even half of you guys watching this decided to subscribe, it'd make a huge difference and help me towards my dream of hopefully one day doing content like this as a job. Thank you guys so much, and let's get back to it. He had Titan, back 1+2, which was something we'd really never seen before in the series, a full screen, essentially a projectile mid-power crush with a ton of pushback, and despite being minus 13 or 14 depending on the range, it was almost impossible to punish in many situations. He also had back 2, being another Deviljin chain-like move, designed around anti-keep outs. It has ridiculous range and tracking, guarantees like 40 damage and a heat engager on hit, and gives +6 into a stance mix-up on block. And we know how the Tekken community feels about stance mix-ups. Basically, everything the community hates in a Tekken character, he had. Ridiculously fast safe heat engagers, yep. Broken power crush, of course. Infinite pressure from any range. This is Clive Rosfield, okay? What else would you expect? He had a really strong counter that was deceptively hard to punish, a million long-range counter hit tools, weirdly safe strings like his 2-2-2, and of course, the signature Tekken 8 stance rushdown. His stance, Phoenix Shift, is really good, having tons of safe options, power crush, heat engager, a risky low, a more safe low. It's everything you could really want. And that's not even mentioning his heat. Clive's heat, more specifically his heat strings, are ridiculously powerful. Some of the best in the game for sure. This isn't to say that Clive didn't have any weaknesses. His up-close poking wasn't the greatest, and his lows could be better, but these weren't enough to hold him down, or to make him any less annoying to fight. Within a week or so, most people thought Clive was a top 10 character, a definitive S tier, and from there, the community's opinion of him only seemed to get better and better. Well, better in terms of how good they thought he was. Definitely not in terms of how much they liked him. The constant complaining was still rampant, and in my opinion was actually very justified at this point. For the next couple weeks, you couldn't go 1 second without seeing someone claim, Clive is destroying the game, or Clive is top 1, or Tekken has become pay to win. Even though most pros agreed that he was top tier, that wasn't enough for some people. You would actually have people saying you were downplaying him if you thought he was top 10, because he's actually the most broken character in the game. I saw a lot of people saying that he was top 1 during this time. Pretty crazy stuff. Pro players wouldn't go that far, but again, everyone agreed that he was too strong and needed nerfs. And they did it, just like that. Almost 1 month after his release, an update was announced exclusively to nerf Clive. This is how you know the developers must have thought they screwed up and this was really bad. There's tons of other characters who most people think are better than Clive and more deserving of nerfs. Think Jin, Yoshimitsu, Nina, but they've been left largely untouched since the game's release. But Clive? Within a month, he gets an emergency patch, and just like that, he's gone. His best attack, Prominence, was hit hard, losing tracking and becoming minus 12 on block, essentially making the move useless. No one uses it anymore. His parry was nerfed, his power crush was nerfed, and with that, we're pretty much caught up to the present. The character's definitely not dead or anything. He still has amazingly unique tools like his back 2, 13 frame mid-safe heat engager, a full screen confirmable poke into a heat engager, which is super underrated. No one really talks about his sidestep too. There's still a lot going for the character, but he's undoubtedly taken a big hit. So much has happened with this character in such an incredibly small time period. His reputation took a big hit. From the controversy around his announcement, to finally figuring out how broken he was, to him getting an emergency patch to be nerfed. It's not a good look, and his reputation was definitely damaged. It makes sense why so many people hate this character. And even after the nerfs, I do get why a lot of people hate fighting him. He has a lot of really frustrating tools for people to deal with. Despite all the negatives, I still have a ton of respect for Clive players who stuck with him after the nerfs. The character at his core is just so cool. No other character in this game even comes close to his spectacle and animations. We've never had a character like this in Tekken before, and I hope he continues to be popular and sees usage in competitive play for the remainder of this game's lifetime. We really just haven't seen a lot of him in competitive because he's barely been out and he was nerfed so quickly. And it's going to be interesting to see how he does in the remainder of Tekken 8's lifetime. Maybe his reputation will be saved and people will start liking him again. Or maybe not. But you know what? I've actually liked this character since the moment he got revealed. I think guest characters are always good. They bring in a ton of casual players, and you can tell Clive was done really well. The amount of detail the developers put into him is honestly astonishing. They did a great job. Now, balance-wise, yeah, they didn't do a great job, but they addressed it really quickly, and hopefully going forward, they'll do this with other characters who need to be toned down. Here's hoping Season 2 gives us the nerfs we desperately need. Anyway, that's about all I've got for this video. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe to support more content like this, and also make sure to join my Discord server. The link's in the description. Huge thanks to my YouTube members for supporting me, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take it easy.